the response time and the level of response to this oil spill was woefully lacking from the health point of view.
Tonight, the company that caused a massive fuel spill in northwest BC gets a $2.9 million fine. But the people that have to live with that spill want to make sure it never happens again.
These challenges should have been dealt with over many, many years ago.
And how to fix the water problems that plague First Nation communities in Ontario. The leader of Ontario's NDP says it's not that hard. Good evening, welcome to APTN National News. I'm Dennis Ward. It's been more than a week since messages from a well-known Indigenous leader surfaced online. Now more women have come forward claiming Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs Grand Chief Arlen Dumas contacted them the same way, displaying a pattern that appears to have been going on for years. Here's Brittany Hobson with more.
In 2017, Renee Yetman met Arlen Dumas. She was part of a women's drumming group playing at a community celebration following his election as Grand Chief. The two began messaging each other a couple months later.
I was blindfolded the whole time because I was I was attracted to his positivity and his humble attitude and stuff. So.
She says they exchanged dozens of messages like this one, where Dumas writes, "We should meet up for Tim's soon." The two eventually got together. During one encounter, Dumas invited Yetman to his apartment.
How do you feel about coming back to my place? I was like, what are we gonna do there? Trust me, it's gonna be fun. I was like, okay. I was like, sure, I guess I could go there.
She says the two had consensual sex the same day. From then on, the relationship changed. In a recent video posted to Facebook, Yetman shared her experience.
And he's like, yeah, I'm not as hungry as you are, Renee. He sent with us one of those emojis with the smile, just with that smile, and I was like, hungry? I just finished eating. I can't be hungry. And he was like, you know what I mean by that.
Yetman is the third woman to speak to APTN about Dumas. Toronto-based doula Shannon Jennifer said she was contacted through a Facebook account that was in Arlen Dumas' name in 2016. Jennifer said she didn't know Dumas, but he sent her repeated messages saying, "Such beautiful pics," and "Have a great day." The messages stopped, she said, when he became Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs Grand Chief in 2017 and deleted his personal Facebook account. In court documents from 2014 detailing their marriage breakup, Dumas' former wife voiced concerns about his messaging. The petitioner also started developing relationships with other women, and he also admitted such to me. I saw his text messages and Facebook messages to these women. Last week, Bethany Matewashing released Facebook messages Dumas sent her using a fake account. In them, he asked her to hang out. Matewashing felt the need to call out this behavior.
When we don't come forward, we're enabling them to continue doing what they're doing.
APTN has reached out to Dumas several times for comment. He has not responded. He has since taken a temporary leave of absence to heal, according to a statement released by the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs. The AMC Women's Council initially offered to investigate, but has since withdrawn the offer. In their latest statement, they said, "This has created a media frenzy based on little more than Facebook posts."
Wow.
The latest developments have left some, like Yetman, wondering where they can go to for support.
We need a safe place to go to discuss these stories. We need professional leaders. We need our grandmothers to be there for us. We need to be heard.
Brittany Hobson, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
An American company who owned a tugboat that sank off the northwest coast of BC learned its fate after pleading guilty to spilling 110,000 liters of diesel. APTN's Tina House has that story.
$2.9 million is what Kirby Offshore, a Houston-based company that owned the Nathan E. Stewart tugboat, will pay after it was ruled that the lone operator fell asleep and crashed into the rocky shoreline near remote Bella Bella in October of 2016. The funds will be directed to the Government of Canada's Environmental Damages Fund. Brock Martland is the lawyer that represented the Celtic Nation at the sentencing.
The court heard from a number of members of the Celtic community about the gravity of the impact of this oil spill on them and on their community and on the environment where they live.
And for the Celtic Nation, it meant devastation to their ability to harvest traditional foods.
Things that we harvested there include blackcod, clams, cockles, crab, halibut, herring spawn on kelp, lingcod, rockcod, and various species of salmon. We have one grocery store in our community, and we're accessible by boat and by plane. So for us, having a healthy ocean, a healthy ecosystem is really important.
The lawyers who were involved in this sentencing proceeding put it forward to the judge on the basis that it was a precedent-setting level of fine, a very high level of fine.
Chief Marilyn Slett says that there is no amount of money that could ever replace what was lost.
The effect that it had on our people, I suspect we'll continue to feel that, going forward. We felt hurt, we felt, a deep sense of loss. We felt at times helpless to what was happening. And, with the company, the polluter, not conducting any sort of environmental impact assessment, we also feel a lot of uncertainty around the health of the area, the spill area.
The Celtic Nation is also in the process of filing their own case. Although Martland is not representing the Celtic on that case, he's had discussions with the community about the impacts of the spill.
The Celtic Nation, number one, is looking for redress from the company because of what happened. More broadly, they want to have really effective spill response measures put in place, in particular from the federal government. I think one of the things I learned about during the time I spent in Bella Bella this week and learning about this case was that the response time and the level of response to this oil spill was woefully lacking from the Celtic point of view, and they want to see that system improved in the future.
Tina House, APTN National News, Vancouver.
Things are heating up between the town of Oka and the Ganasatake Mohawk territory over a piece of land a developer is offering to hand to the federal government, who in turn can sell it back to the Mohawks. Only thing is, Oka isn't happy about it. Lindsay Richardson joins us now with more from Montreal. Lindsay, thanks for joining us. What's the latest from Ganasatake?
Well, Dennis, a lot of the tension that we've been seeing over the last couple of days seems to be at a bit of a standstill. Things are sort of petering out. Some Ganasatake residents were set up alongside at the reserve's limits with a peaceful protest, but it's been a relatively quiet morning in Ganasatake compared to last night, where we did report that there was a bit of a confrontation between a resident and a member of the French media who reportedly approached and started filming without permission of the people who are protesting. Now, just generally, the rhetoric among the community members seems to be that the media is all too fixated on the concept of this becoming a new Oka crisis, instead of focusing on the efforts that both communities are making to actually avoid that situation altogether. Now, Grand Chief Serge Simon did say that if any kind of crisis was triggered, it would likely be triggered by members of the community of Oka, who are currently being fueled by some pretty incendiary language on the part of their mayor.
And what exactly has the mayor of Oka been saying about the situation?
Well, Dennis, a lot's been said at this point, a lot of instances of passive racism, a lot of instances of invoking sort of time-worn stereotypes about Indigenous peoples, but the mayor has said that at this point in time he does feel like he's surrounded by Mohawks, and if this land is reacquired by Kanesatake, effectively expanding their territory, he's worried about the installation of pot shops and cigarette shops. He's said that Kanesatake is a place where there are illegal garbage dumps and contaminated water. So there's a lot of fear-mongering going on, and this seems to be paralleled by some of the residents in Oka. And according to the Grand Chief of Kanesatake, the kind of language that he's using with his residents during these public consultations and information sessions could actually qualify as hate speech under the criminal code.
So, Lindsay, any word on what's next?
Well, it's been a while, a considerable amount of time since the two parties have actually spoken face to face, so there is no word about what's going to happen next. A lot of rumors flying, however. One of them that the mayor was actually going to hold a press conference to follow up on the events of the last couple of days. So we contacted the municipality of Oka. They were unable to confirm whether or not this was true. So while Kanesatake has been openly inviting the residents of Oka to join in on their public information sessions and keep them informed of their plans for the land, they say the opposite is not true. There were rumors that they were not welcomed at Oka's public information sessions, and Oka, during these sessions, actually put out an appeal to the federal and provincial governments to send representatives to the community to intervene to make sure that any dealings moving forward are fair and mutually respectful of the two parties. But just generally speaking, both sides are very aware of the comparisons being made to the 1990 Oka crisis, and both say that they are actively working to try to avoid this becoming a reality.
Lindsay, appreciate you bringing us up to date on the situation.
Of course, we'll keep you posted with any developments as we get them.
Coming up after the break, we'll take you to a community that was under Canada's longest boil water advisory. Stick around.
Here's a look at Saturday's weather forecast starting on the East Coast. 31 under the sun in Halifax, showers, and 15 for St. John's. 15 and sunny for Nain and Cartwright, 21 for Happy Valley Goose Bay. Showers and 30 for Montreal, 31 with rain in Quebec City. 35 in London, 36 in Sarnia and Windsor. 26 in Thunder Bay with rain, 28 for Kapuskasing and Timmins. 17 under sunny skies in Churchill, 21 in Norway House and God's Lake. Showers and 24 for Winnipeg, 23 with rain for Gimli. 23 and sunny for Regina, showers and 23 in Estevan. Sun's out and 27 for Uranium City and Stony Rapids.
Welcome back. The leader of Ontario's NDP says she's going to push the province to pay to fix water issues on First Nations and then send Ottawa the bill. Andrea Horvath toured parts of Northern Ontario this week. APTN's Willow Fiddler was there and brings us this report from Neskantaga First Nation.
The leader of Ontario's official opposition says finding solutions for First Nations in Northern Ontario is not rocket science.
These challenges should have been dealt with over many years ago, and unfortunately we continue to see the blame game and the real solutions not being implemented. A lot of talk, not enough action.
Horvath took to the skies to visit 3 fly-in First Nations this week with local MPP Saul Mamakwa. In Neskantaga First Nation, they toured the community's new water treatment plant, which is under construction. Last winter, Neskantaga fired the contractor for being behind schedule. The community has been under a boil water advisory for 25 years, and the plant was supposed to be completed months ago. But Chief Chris Munias said even when the plant is finished and they have clean water coming out of the taps, the long-term effects will still be felt.
Well, it's going to be hard even after it's commissioned, when it's commissioned, right? It's going to be hard to even trust the water, right? Yeah.
Horvath says the federal and provincial governments have an obligation to ensure First Nations have water treatment plants that last. She says Ontario just needs to fix the problems.
And if some of the cost of those fixes need to come from the federal government, then fix the problems and send the bill to Ottawa. but fix the problems first and foremost. Fix the problems so that so that the intergenerational trauma that communities are facing can start to be resolved.
Horvath and Mamakwa also visited Kingfisher Lake and Attawapiskat on their tour.
We're going to put down in writing what we've heard, make sure that it reflects what was spoken reflects what we thought we heard. We always have to check back to make sure that we're respectful and we're not interpreting something the wrong way.
Horvath says she'll be pushing the government of Doug Ford and the federal government to fix the issues the chiefs identified. Willow Fiddler, APTN National News, Neskantaga First Nation.
Well, it's not news that there's a drastic infrastructure deficit for First Nations across the country. Lack of money to build care homes, school, water treatment facilities, and the like. North 35 Capital Partners is an Inuit-owned company that works with Indigenous governments and economic development corporations and has set up an infrastructure fund hoping to address that deficiency. CEO Clint Davis spoke earlier with host Melissa Ridgen to explain how.
Clint, so can you give us just a really simple pared-down version of what you're hoping to do by creating this economic foundation?
Yeah, so the Indigenous Infrastructure Fund is a fund that's looking at investing primarily in infrastructure projects both on Indigenous land, which would be in communities, as well as in traditional territories, so involving infrastructure projects that require the involvement of Indigenous communities.
And how much are you hoping to raise, and who are you looking to invest in this?
So our goal is to raise $100 million. When you translate that into the scale of projects, that would be about $1 billion in projects. We're reaching out to a variety of different institutional investors, accredited investors. So those are large-scale investors anywhere from pension funds to endowments. But in particular, we have a very unique approach where we're actually reaching out to Indigenous trusts. As you know, Melissa, that when you look at it in its aggregate or in total, Indigenous communities across the country have at least $9 billion of Indigenous trust capital as a result of the resolution of land claims, economic activity, royalty sharing agreements, and so on. So all of these trusts are active investors in the market, and some are looking at alternative investments, and we're hoping that we can actually help to generate a good return and a decent and market return for these investors, at the same time being aligned with their values.
So has there been a lot of interest so far, and is there a minimum that somebody would have to invest?
Yeah, so there is a lot of interest. So we have a number of trusts who've expressed significant interest and are starting to look at conducting due diligence and looking at some of the details around our fund. In particular, looking at the documentation that surrounds the creation of the fund itself. And so that's obviously very positive. And there's a lot of really good discussions that are happening. A lot of trusts are interested in ensuring that what they're investing in has a positive impact on communities and ultimately a positive impact on the country.
So what type of infrastructure projects are you looking to find, and are these projects already selected, or is there an application process to tap into this fund, and if so, what's the criteria?
So there is no application process per se. What we're going to be doing ourselves as fund managers, as you can imagine, one of the critical things that you want when you set up a fund is to make sure you have a good flow of projects to consider for investment. Not every single project we'll invest in, because we actually have to ensure that we're going to meet a market return of at least 7% and hopefully higher. And our goal is to do it higher. The various projects that we'd be investing in, and right now it's interesting because I have a variety of folks who are asking me, like, what do you invest in? What are some of these Indigenous projects? Well, there is a ready-made market right now involving Indigenous communities. In fact, my firm, we did the research and we found that in the last 5 years, there were 95 projects totaling capital costs of about $28.5 billion, which required the involvement of Indigenous communities.
Interesting.
So the various projects that we would invest in range anywhere from social infrastructure like schools, long-term care facilities, renewable energy. We would look at utilities, anywhere from water, wastewater, electrification, transportation, and in fact telecommunications, particularly looking at broadband.
If somebody wants to invest in this fund, how do they do so?
Well, they would get in touch with me and get in touch with North 35 Capital Partners. We are looking, as I said, for accredited investors. We think that this is a great opportunity for certainly Indigenous investors, but also non-Indigenous investors who see that the gap is quite significant with Indigenous communities across the country in the area of infrastructure. And we see the fund, frankly, as a catalytic fund to help draw additional private sector funding to go in and to narrow the gap in Indigenous infrastructure.
Clint, this is fascinating. Thank you so much for taking the time to share this, what you guys are up to over there at North 35.
Thank you. It was a real pleasure.
It was 50 years ago tomorrow that the first human being set foot on the moon. We'll reflect on this historic moment with NASA's first Indigenous astronaut after the break.
Here's a look at the rest of Saturday's weather forecast. Showers and 28 for high level. Sunny and 27 in Fort Chip. 25 under the sun for Medicine Hat. A high of 18 with rain in Calgary. Sunny on the west coast. 24 for Campbell River and Victoria. 22 in Vancouver. 27 for Fort Nelson. Showers and 21 for Dease Lake. 23 under sunny skies in Old Crow, Smoky, and 20 for Rock River. 25 in Norman Wells, 29 and showers for Fort Liard and Fort Simpson. 7 with rain for Sax Harbor, 1 degree warmer with showers for Pawlatuck. 18 in Arviette under sunny skies, 18 in Whale Cove with rain. Plus 5 for Resolution.
Welcome back. Tomorrow marks the 50th anniversary since Neil Armstrong first stepped foot on the moon. At the time, 530 million people around the world watched that touchdown. To talk about the anniversary, we've reached John Harrington. He's the first Indigenous astronaut for NASA. He joins us from the airport in Salt Lake City, Utah. John, thanks for taking some time for us. So what do you think about when you see the old footage of Neil Armstrong stepping down onto the moon?
I remember being about 10 years old, watching it on TV in Black Forest, Colorado, and just seeing the image in my mind and watching the TV picture and trying to figure out exactly what I was seeing because it was kind of blurry, but it was a very impressive moment.
You were on the space shuttle in 2002 on that mission. Do astronauts today still think back to what Armstrong and his crew did?
Yeah, they sure do. I remember when we became astronauts in my class, different astronauts come and talk to us, and certainly folks from the Apollo program came, and Mercury, the Gemini program, and it was great. It was very enjoyable for us to talk to the guys that we watched growing up that inspired the generation that that built the shuttle and the space station.
John, do you think we'll see anything as dramatic in our lifetime as that moon landing was?
Well, I think in our lifetime we will, but in the next 4 or 5 years, I don't think that's going to happen to the way that the folks here in the States think it's going to happen. It's rather, 1.6 billion for the next year is just not going to cut it to get you to the moon. If they want to do that by 2024, it's going to take a lot of money, a lot of initiative. And right now, the way things are down here, I don't think that's going to happen. It'd be nice if it did, but I'm not sure.
All right. John, what about for yourself? What are you working on these days for NASA?
Well, I went back, actually not for NASA. I do go down to the Kennedy Space Center, which I'll be down there in about a week. I'll be down there for about a week's worth of talks with the public and I'm working on an IMAX movie as well here in the States. So there's a lot of things going on. As a matter of fact, I just came from the Choctaw Nation STEM camp out in Tuscaloosa, Oklahoma, and now I'm headed out to Dallas, Oregon, and I'm going to meet with a bunch of students out there as well. So just always on the move, going somewhere. That's why I'm in the airport.
Great stuff, John. Appreciate you taking some time here for us.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for calling.
That's your APTN National News for this Friday. For the latest, visit our website, aptnnews.ca. I'm Dennis Ward. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great weekend.